I've been in the field of education for quite a while, 31 years to be exact, and there's a famous video that teachers are shown a lot, especially as a motivation to start the year. And it's a man walking along a beach, and he sees a little boy, and the tide has gone out, and there's all these fish, these starfish, on the beach. And the boy is tossing one starfish after another into the water. And the man is looking at the beach and he sees probably hundreds of starfish on the beach. And the boy is just steady tossing one after the other, after the other, after the other into the water. And the man says, "Why are you doing that? You'll never get them all. You'll never save them all." And the boy says, "But I'm saving this one. I'm saving this one." And, it's a motivation to do what you can, where you are, for as long as you can, because it does make a difference to the people or the situations that you're able to save. Now, I saw a post that really just struck me as being, a real life example of this. And it also reminded me, strangely enough, of a quote from Cruella de Vil. And she said, "More good women have been lost to marriage than to war, famine, disease, and disaster. You have talent, darling. Don't squander it." So this post that I saw was a meme that had, some backstory to it. And the meme says her husband divorced her for being too educated, too strong, too successful, too stubborn, and too hard to control. She became the first African woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize. And so this is talking about a woman who was named Wangari Maathai, and I hope I'm saying it correctly. And she started off, in Africa, in a small village where trees were really, really important to her village. She was born in 1940 in rural Kenya. And so she grew up surrounded by forests, and she watched her mother gather firewood, collect water from clean streams, and harvest food from all of these trees that were around her. But a lot of these trees were being cut down, and so the soil was eroding, the food source was eroding, people were having to struggle more to live. So, she went to school, she got a bachelor's degree, she got a master's degree, she got a PhD, and then she got married and she moved away. And when she came back, she saw that the forests were gone. And they were barren. They had been cut down for timber. They had been cleared for commercial agriculture. They'd been destroyed by development. The streams had dried up. No trees meant no water retention. The soil erosion had destroyed farmland. Firewood had become scarce. Now women had to walk hours to find firewood for their cooking fires. And people were starving because there was food insecurity. And she decided to do what she could. Where she was, she decided to found the Greenbelt movement. And it had one simple idea: plant trees. And so she got seedlings, took them to the village women, said, "Hey, plant these seedlings, care for these seedlings. You'll receive a small payment for every tree that survives." And so she taught these rural women how to take care of these trees. Now, she started this in 1977. And what often happens when you start something that works, people talk, people share, people get other people involved. She started off with a few women, and hundreds of thousands of women were planting trees. by the time she died in 2011. The Greenbelt movement planted 51 million trees across Kenya. 51 million. Streams began flowing again, soil erosion decreased, women no longer walked hours for firewood, rural communities regained food security. And before her death, when there were companies that tried to come in and bulldoze basically the trees she planted, she became a political activist and she stood up against them, even though she was getting death threats, even though she was called unpatriotic, a troublemaker, a puppet of foreign interests. But she didn't back down. She was beaten by police. She was arrested multiple times. She lost her job at the University of Nairobi because, political pressure was put on them to, threaten her with job loss if she doesn't stop, being this activist for these trees. And her husband looked at all that was going on. Now, keep in mind, she started this Greenbelt movement in 1977. 2 years later, her husband said, "I've had enough." This was when it was just starting. "I've had enough. I'm divorcing you if you don't stop what you're doing. You're too educated, you're too strong, you're too successful, you're too stubborn, you're too hard to control." She looked at her 2 to 3 years of work and said, "You know what, I just started and I know that this is going to make a difference in people's lives. I'm going to continue to do it." And he divorced her. She kept going. The ultimate vindication came in 2004. On October 8th, 2004, the Norwegian Nobel Committee announced that Wangari Maathai had won the Nobel Peace Prize, the first African woman to ever receive the honor. And the citation read, "For her contribution to sustainable development, democracy, and peace." So she not only planted these trees, but in 2002, she was elected to Parliament. From 2003 to 2005, she served as an assistant minister for environment and national resources. She died at 71, and her legacy is still visible across Kenya in the 51 million trees that now provide shade, water, and life. She also proved that you don't need massive resources to change the world. You need a clear vision. You need the courage to act. You need willingness to empower others. And you need the refusal to not quit. You don't quit even when people are threatening you, including your husband, who doesn't like your success, your intelligence, your vision. If she had stopped because of her marriage, she would never have seen 51 million trees planted. She would never have seen the streams come back. She would never have seen women who didn't have to walk hours to get firewood, communities that could feed themselves from the trees that they planted. She would never have gotten the Nobel Peace Prize. She would never have changed Kenya and the lives of hundreds of thousands of families. That's one person choosing their vision, their purpose, their mission over marriage, over convenience, over what society says you should do, but following your heart. And so, just like with those starfish, it matters to this one. Wherever you are, whoever you are, whatever you can do, do it, because you never know what your tree that you plant can cause. I'm sure she never thought that she would end up with 51 million trees planted across Kenya, but she did. We can do so much more than we think we can. We are so much more powerful than we think we are. And I think stories like this are so beautiful. And like Cruella de Vil says, don't squander your talent. May you walk in synergy. I've been in the field